That's a great picture. I am so privileged to have the final opportunity to say thank you for a life well spent and a ministry that has been very effective. John, you don't know this, but you carry a lot of weight. I don't mean literally, but you carry a lot of weight. About 4 months ago, my wife and I were standing in our offices at divisional headquarters, and we got the news that we were going to be transferred. Didn't quite know where, we just knew that a transfer, a change of appointment was coming. And we had the opportunity, we were meeting with the Sjogrens, and we were sitting there kind of all crying and having a boo-hoo fest. That happens when you move. And I'll never forget, Colonel looked at Trudy and I, and he said, "Before I can tell you where you're going, I have to call and just make sure that we get permission that this can actually take place." Well, I assumed he was calling the commissioner. That's not the case. It was a couple of days later that I found out he actually called John to say, "Is this okay that the Windhams are coming?" That is a true story. It really, well, okay, not quite true, but it's true in my mind. I don't want to look at Colonel. He's probably saying, yes, it is. Yeah. But you know, John, your influence has carried great weight throughout the years and has affected people way beyond the walls of St. Paul Temple or this Corps and Lakewood Temple. There are many officers that are sitting here today, many officers that you've seen on the video, that have had great effect even on our lives, Trudy and I. You don't know this, but the Andersons, who were the Corps officers here some 35 years ago, I think I heard, were my Corps officers when I was much, much younger. And it was after they had the opportunity to be here. And I know that the ministry that they had in my life was a direct reflection of the ministry that you had and imparted on them. Many words can be said about the Strissels, the Fays, and the Teacoutses, all who have had great impact on my life, either as my Corps officers or my divisional youth secretaries that I know have been affected by your ministry. Long before I stepped foot in Minnesota, I couldn't even find Minnesota on a map long before we came. I'm just teasing. I knew it was over here because I was in Michigan for a while, so it was this direction. That's all I could do when they told me we were coming to Minnesota. But that effect, that influence on our life is something that Trudy and I take very, very seriously. And even though we've only been here 4 months, going on 4 months as the Corps officers, and have been soldiers here 3 years prior to that, we are so grateful for the time that we have had to sit underneath your leadership and to be a part of your ministry. You know, around the territory before, or when the moves came out that actually confirmed, thank you, Colonel, thank you, John, that we were coming here, I got many notes, many letters of congratulation, and all of them said the exact same thing: be careful. You have an incredible Corps Sergeant Major. Now, I didn't know how to take that at first. Be careful? You know, what exactly did that mean? I soon found out. There were a couple of times I walked in the building at the beginning, and I would walk into the boys' restroom. And in the men's restroom here in this building, I don't know why this is the case in this building, but the heat and air controllers are in the ceiling in the boys' restroom. Well, I didn't know that the first couple of days I was here. And I walked into, well, I was in the boys' restroom. And as I walked in, I looked up and I saw this body hanging from the ceiling from about here down. And the only thing I could say was, "No, don't do it! Don't do it, please, John. You can't leave us just yet. We have to have you here." It wasn't too long after that, I walked into the kitchen. Same thing. John is standing on a ladder with this part of him up in the ceiling and this part of him hanging down because the heat and the air controllers are up there. But as I begged and pleaded with him to come down, it was a direct reflection on just how involved he is in every aspect of this Corps building, of this Corps, of the people, of the soldiers. He's not above sticking his head in a ceiling or getting on his knees and praying for anyone who needs to know the love of Christ and to do exactly what it takes to be a man of influence. I'll never forget my first day here in the building as the Corps officer. I was sitting in my office, and sure enough, couldn't have been more than 10 or 15 minutes after I walked into the building, John knocks on the door and he says, "Major, can I come in?" Am I going to say no? But yes. "Come on in, John." And he sat down and he said, "Listen, I've said this exact same thing to many, many Corps officers, and I want to say it to you. If you let me teach you something, if you let me take care of all of the building, all of the grounds, all of the property, and all of these things, the one thing I can teach you is to be faithful, that you need to be the Corps officer, you need to be the pastor of what's taking place in this building. I will handle everything else, but you be faithful to do that. That's what I want to teach you. A couple of days later, I was talking to Joyce, and Joyce said the exact same thing to me. Major, if there's one thing I can teach you before you leave this place, it's I want to teach you how to make coffee. She said, every Corps officer here has to learn how to make coffee. I don't care if you're 38 or 37 or how old you are, and don't drink coffee because you haven't matured that much. You are going to learn how to make it. Those were her words to me. But we are so grateful for the impact that you have had, the faithfulness that you have been throughout the years. And even though it's just been a short time, your impact carries great weight in my life, in my heart, in my family, and certainly in my ministry. I leave on a very, very sad note because I know that I will forever be known as the Corps officer that kicked John Grambush out of being the Corps Sergeant Major. But you will know, more importantly, I know that. Hey, you taught me everything I know, so I can blame you for that. But seriously, John, you have focused many, many officers on the ministry while being the example of what ministry is supposed to be. John, I respect the last words that you will have to say to many of us. Hallelujah. To lift our hearts, to lift our voices, and to focus on God. And I represent the last in a long line of officers to be affected by your ministry. But because of your faithfulness, for a long time, many more will feel the effects that you have had on our lives. May God bless you.